Hello all, very good morning. Thanks for joining the session. Let me share my screen. Let us quickly recap like yesterday demo what we discussed. And before going to the yesterday demo what we discussed, this is the course details, Spring Boot and microservices. Prerequisite is Java 8 and then Spring Core. No problem if you don't know Spring Core. If you know only Java 8, still you will be able to attend these sessions because I will cover the Spring Core from very basic to advanced level in 3 weeks. And then duration is 90 days. The entire course duration is 90 days, excluding the demos. And fee is 8,000. After learning this course, you can showcase 0 to 6 years of experience. Minimum, of course, you will be attend as a fresher. What I mean here is, or else you can showcase up to maximum of 6 years of experience on this microservices architecture. And the classes will be from Monday to Saturday, no sessions on Sunday. If in case we need a session on Sunday, I will inform you ahead of a week, 1 week before only, I will inform you. So class timings are from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. So daily 1.5 hours is the session, and 15 minutes I will give for the doubts, or 30 minutes or 15 minutes. Let's spend on the doubts discussion, and exactly 1 hour or 1.5 hour. Let me go with the content coverage. And recordings also will be provided. These recordings will be provided, and then validity of the recordings is 6 months only. 6 months, and then the recordings are not downloadable, they are just viewable. And regarding the material, so material will be provided through the Google Classroom. So I will allow you to the Google Classroom. Once you've done your registrations, I will allow you to the Google Classroom. There you can download the material. So material through the Google Classroom, it can be downloadable. So the material is downloadable. You can download it. Okay, so material, and then recorded videos, recorded session videos, right? So recorded videos will be uploaded to your drive. So recordings will be provided and validated. So once you're registered, the recordings will be uploaded to your Gmail drive. So all of you, while paying and maybe registering, you give your Gmail drive. And Gmail, better to give the Gmail so that no issues will come while sharing the recordings for them as well. So material is shared through the My Google Classroom link, and videos will come to your Google Drive. Okay, so that's about it. And the outcome of this course, you are attending Spring Boot and microservices, right? So the outcome of this is what? You will learn this Spring Boot, you will learn microservices, you will learn Spring Cloud, you will learn Docker. And using all these three, you will do one project here. So the project also covers the security, and we will use the UI as the time leaf when we are implementing the Spring Boot. And when we divide this into a microservices, so here UI is the React.js. Of course, I don't cover React.js theory for you, but I'll cover the integration of the React.js. So UI is the React.js, and backend is the microservices architecture. So with this, we will do one project here, microservices architecture. So with this, we will do one project here. And of course, Spring Cloud, we will use the Spring Cloud for the microservices. So whatever the microservices we implemented, right? So those microservices will be built as an ecosystem using Spring Cloud. Don't worry, maybe I'm using some new words. You just ignore them, but see the outcome what you learn here. So the ideal outcome what you will learn here is this one. This is the final outcome that you will learn, right? So Spring Boot microservices, and then React.js integrations, and then various microservices patterns, right? Along with the cache, and then event streaming brokers like Kafka, and then AMQP protocol like RabbitMQ, tracking, using the Gipkin, and then the monitoring using the Grafana, logging using the ELK, and security using the IDP called Keycloak we will use here, not identity server. Keycloak we will use here. And also we will implement the user management service using the OAuth 2 plus JWT plus OpenID. Okay, so this is what the outcome you exactly will get after or throughout this course. So we will take one use case called retail e-commerce. I'll also explain what is this use case and all. So use case and then architecture of it and then flow of it, I will explain. Okay, architecture, flow diagram and all I'll explain when we started it. So what I mean to say is we will start this exactly similar to this. Let us start the application, which contains the 4 modules, categories, products, orders, and then customers. So this entire application will be like this. If you can see all the modules, categories module, products module, orders module, customers module, all these modules inside a Tomcat application server will execute, and all these modules will connect to a single database. This is what we will implement using the Spring Boot and then Spring Web MVC. On top of it, you will apply all the Spring Boot concepts here. So what Spring Boot concepts we will apply here, right? That we will know now. You are getting my point, right? So throughout this course, you will learn Spring Boot, microservices, Spring Cloud, and then Docker plus AWS deployment, how the Docker need to be created in EC2 machines, AWS Cloud, and then how to run the application in the AWS Cloud. I will explain. Okay, so where we will start basically first in the part of Spring Boot learning, we will do exactly this application. I can even showcase you the wireframes. Wireframes meaning the markups. So this is the wireframes. So these are the static wireframes. Let me go this index.html and exactly the same, right? So categories, products, orders, and then categories, products, orders, and then the customers, right? Of course, this is yet to prepare, but customers, orders, and then the products, and then categories. So these are the 4 modules that you will implement using the Spring Boot, Spring Web MVC. Okay, so the application will come like this. Let me go here. Application will come like this, and its internal architecture is like this. So categories module. So we have seen categories here. So just would like to showcase categories. Now categories are here. This categories module architecture is something like this. So in a Tomcat, a categories module will run, and in the same Tomcat, product module will also run. The same Tomcat orders module will also run. So like this, we will implement these using Spring Boot. We will implement this application. So while implementing this application, we will apply the various concepts of the Spring Boot. So what are those various concepts that I will showcase today? So Spring Boot 2.x course content. What will be covered as part of this course content? First, we will see Spring Boot overview. What is Spring Boot? We will see. In order to understand this, what is Spring Boot, why the Spring Boot and all, we will first see the problems in the traditional web application development. Traditional web application development meaning, for example, over the years, if you can see in 2002, we have an EJB, and 2004 onwards, this Spring came into the picture. And then Spring, various modules came like Spring Web MVC. And 2010, 2011, 2012 till 13, Struts and then JSP frameworks were used a lot. And 2013 to, of course, 2010 to 2011, 12, 13, 14 till 15, we used the Spring Web MVC module. And then 2015 to 2017, we frequently used the RESTful web services. RESTful web services, JOXRS RESTful web services we used frequently. And since 2017 to so far, everyone is using the microservices. So whatever the evolution, meaning whatever the evolution I have told, right? So let me even write it if you want. The evolution, whatever I have told from EJB and then Spring, and then Spring Web MVC applications using Spring Web MVC, and then Struts, then JSF, and then the JAX-RS REST API, right? So, and then currently it is microservices. Currently it is the Spring Boot and microservices. This is the technical evolution, how it has been happened over the years. So 2002 and 2004, this came into the picture. Spring Web MVC started using by the 2010, and Struts also started using 2010 to 2013, and JSF also there 2010 to 2013, and JAX-RS used 2013 to 2015 or 2015, and here also Spring REST, meaning RESTful JAX-RS Spring. So JAX-RS with Spring. So can you please, wow, I'll explain all these things. Just see this. JAX-RS with Spring is again 2015 to 2017, and Spring Boot microservices 2017 to till now. 2017 to till now. Microservices again 2017 to till now. So this is the technical stack. So JAX-RS will be used for implementing the RESTful API. What is RESTful API and all we'll discuss. But don't worry what is used for what, but you just understand from EJB 2002 to till now where we are. From here to where we are now. We are now with the microservices architecture. That means what? From 2002 to 2022, right? Till now, that is 2022. Over these 2 decades of time, lot of innovations, lot of implementations have been done on the technical stack, and the new innovations, new technical implementations are coming up in the market day to day. And such a new innovation, new implementation is what this Spring Boot. But fortunately, microservices is not a new innovation. It is already there since 2002, microservices. But the people started using from 2017, and people started giving a name for this as microservice in 2014. Okay, I don't want to confuse you much, but what I would like to say you is this technical stack overview we will see when we are discussing about the Spring Boot overview. And in this technical stack, the pitfalls, the architectural problems, and how the architectural problems will be solved till now, the Spring Boot and microservices, that discussion we will do in the Spring Boot overview. And finally, we will understand what is Spring Boot. And once we got the Spring Boot understanding, then we will see the features of Spring Boot. So here one important interview question you will face. What is that important interview question is, why Spring Boot? What is that important interview question you will see is, why Spring Boot? Why Spring Boot? In the market, there were a lot of course, Spring Web MVC is there. Spring Web MVC is there, and then still lots of other tools and then technologies were there, but why the people are using mostly the Spring Boot, and why the people are giving the more salaries on Spring Boot? Like, if you can see yesterday, the average, they are saying like, if you are a 5 years experienced candidate, 5+ years of experience candidate, and if you have the Spring Boot, in your stack, you can demand 22 lakhs per annum as a minimum, right? This is what the high salaries they are offering for the candidates who know the Spring Boot. Why that much of popularity for the Spring Boot? Why the companies are paying this much of amount to them, right? So that's what we will learn here. Why Spring Boot? Understanding the Spring Boot overview. Here we will learn why Spring Boot. That is exactly the interviewer's perception as well. Interviewers question also, that is the one. You are asking 22 lakhs, why I should have to give you? Tell me what you will do with the Spring Boot, right? Then you have to explain him why the Spring Boot is with this technical evolution. So 2002 VJB was there, 2004 Spring was there. What is the problem between these two? And Spring Web MVC, what it resolves, Struts, how it used, JSF, how it used, JOXRS. Like the technical evolution discussion we need to bring up. And finally, we need to justify why we are going for this Spring Boot. So that level of discussion we will do here. Next, we will start the features of Spring Boot. Of course, this is again as part of the question, why Spring Boot is most popularly using. Right. After this, what we will do is let us create a simple Spring Boot project, and we will understand the Spring Boot application structure. So when we create a Spring Boot project can be created in 3 ways. This is also one important interview question. How many ways we can create a Spring Boot project? This is for the freshers. For the freshers, the interview question is how you will create a Spring Boot project. Okay, now after the various ways of creating the Spring Boot project, we'll go and then see the Spring Boot application components. This is very, very important. Everyone should have to know the Spring Boot application components. What I mean is, when a Spring Boot application will be created, we will get a pom.xml file. Of course, it is, if it is a Maven only we will choose. So pom.xml file we will get, and we will get the application.java file. So this application.java file, and also we will get the application.properties file, and also we will get the application test.java. So these 4 components we need to thoroughly understand. In order to understand these 4 components, it will take for us 2 weeks of time. So we need to understand the POM file first, and then in the POM file, we will use the Spring Boot starters. So very important, this, if you not attending these sessions, if you, for example, you paid the fee, okay, whatever we said, you paid the fee, but you are not attending these classes, please take your money back and then don't come to classes. Because if you don't know this first 2 weeks of this session, Spring Boot application architecture and Spring Boot application structure, then no need of coming to the classes, because that much of important it is. Sir, why that much of importance? What we will do here? Why that much of important? Why? Because here almost 5 questions will be asked by the interviewers here. So what are those 5 questions is, from that section, 5 questions will be asked by the interviewer. So what are those 5 questions? Let me now just try to write it down here. So when we create a Spring Boot application, we will get the 4 components, meaning majorly we can see pom.xml file, application.java, application.properties, application tests.java. So mainly these 4 concepts, 4 components we will get, isn't it? In this, if we can go to application pom.xml file, you can see a lot of things here, right? What you can see in 3 sections, if you can understand, parent by parent, you can see packaging type, you can see, and then the dependencies by dependencies, you can see, plugins by plugin, you can see, isn't it? So these 4 sections you need to thoroughly understand, because he will ask a question, why the Spring Boot application is using Spring-boot-starter-parent for any of the Spring Boot application. When you create any Spring Boot application, there will be this parent by parent tag. Why the parent by parent tag is here? What is the use of this one? So in order to understand this, first you need to understand the bill of materials pattern. The bill of material pattern you need to understand. Maybe I'm explaining little high level, but I'm setting an expectation to you at what level you have to learn the Spring Boot. Okay, because you are learning the Spring Boot and then again you are appearing in the next sessions. That is not good. Once you learn, you should not come back. So that is my expectation. That's the reason I'm just setting you the expectation where you need to stretch more, where you need to focus more, right? So however, palm file we will see. In palm file we have the 4 sections: parent by parent, packaging type, dependencies, and then the plugins. So these 4 sections we'll thoroughly see. Here we will get a lot of questions. If you can see this project structure, see this lot of things we will see. For example, we will discuss about the project structure, pom.xml file, application.java, and we'll discuss about the plugins. So what are transfer dependencies? What is the Spring Boot starter and parent? Right? What are these plugins? Right? What is executable jar? All these things. What is manifest? And then we will again start understanding the what is bill of material pattern. All these things. Meaning maybe these words are 100% new to you. 100% these words are new to you, and you might feel lot of complexity is there in Spring Boot learning. No, don't go into that mindset. At this moment, you don't know what is Spring Boot. If I use fat jar, light jar, it will be like Chinese language for you. I understood. But what I'm trying to explaining you is the course content. When you see, there is a lot of meaning behind the course content, which exactly suits for your industry needs, meaning industry standards. For example, you are attending an interview. Whatever the interviewer will ask the questions, right? Those questions definitely will come from this section. And we need to, how depth of the section that we need to cover, we need to learn is, I'm just explaining you, showcasing you, so that you will be in a mindset, oh, we will learn in depth of it. Okay, fine. So that mindset you will get. That is the reason I'm just going through it. However, now here 5 questions, 5 interview questions we will see. So once after we understood the Spring Boot components, then what we will do is we will understand the internals of the Spring Boot application. For example, if you can see, maybe I just have closed it, but if you can see, internals of you will understand is, just in case, again, I'm just taking an advantage to explaining you the internals. Internals meaning, for example, this is our this is our var file or jar file created using this Spring Boot. Now what I will do is, just in case, let me extract it. So let me extract it. And if you can see, this var file is of size around 53 MB. I was extracted it. So once after extracted it, we have some structure extracted. So there are var launcher, jar launcher, lot of components were there. What are these components meant for, and how the Spring Boot execution will start, and how the Spring Boot will work internally. So those are all the things we will discuss. You got my point? How depth we will go? It is not like, just saying something and then leaving. No, internals of it we will see. So for example, var launcher. In var launcher, if you can see, there is a lot of stuff is there. See this var launcher. Let me open this diagram. So there is, see this diagram, there is a lot of concepts: launcher, executable launcher, var launcher, jar launcher. Each and every component you will clearly understand, each and every class and all. So I will give you a detailed notes about it. For example, if you can see, Spring Boot application structure, packaging of type var. So what is the note? Step by step. Step 1, what it will be. Step 2, step 3. So like that, I will give the notes. Step by step notes we will discuss once after I can showcase everything in a practical manner. Okay, now Once this is done, understanding the Spring Boot application internals, once this is completed, then the heart of the Spring Boot is Spring Boot auto configuration. This is like heart, brain, what you can say, anything. But this is the liveness of the Spring Boot. Spring Boot is famous. Spring Boot is so used popularly because of its auto configuration. So here in auto configuration, did you observe here bill of material design pattern we have seen? Here we will understand the convention over configuration or convention over coding paradigm. It is not a pattern, it is a paradigm. What is the paradigm? Object-oriented paradigm it is. What is the object-oriented paradigm and how this convention over configuration will help? We will understand. Why is this required? Because I said you can showcase an experience till 6 years, right? I said 6 years meaning what? I have to tell you in depth of it, right? So that is the reason we will cover everything from very beginning to in depth of it. Okay, now once after the convention over configuration you understood, we will understand the Spring Boot auto configuration. How you will understand the Spring Boot auto configuration is, with a right. So how you will understand the Spring Boot auto configuration is, with a simple example, we will understand how the Spring Boot internally is using this auto configuration. A simple example we will take, and then we will understand with that simple example. And later what we will do is that simple example will illustrate how exactly the Spring Boot is using the auto configuration. So then we will go inside the details of the Spring Boot auto configuration, enabling and then disabling this. This is an important interview question for 2 to 3 years of experience guys who are attending the interviews. Can we disable the auto configuration, or else can we exclude something from an auto configuration? For example, I'm using the Spring Web MVC. I don't want the JSON, meaning JSON parsers. Can we avoid them, the JSON parsers? How we can disabling them, how we can exclude them? This is an important interview question for 2 to 3 years of experience, guys. And the guys who have the more experience, you have to more concentrate on this convention over configuration. Convention over configuration, right? It is very easy, and the guys who have the experience above the 6+ or 8, something like that, you have to concentrate on the patterns, paradigms, implementation styles. The freshers and then the medium range of experienced folks, you concentrate on the concepts of the Spring Boot. Okay, however, now here Spring Boot auto configuration we will thoroughly understand and we will see the in-depth of it. And once after having this Spring Boot auto configurations discussion, let us try to alter the Spring Boot auto configurations just by changing the port number, changing the embedded Tomcat. Like that, we will alter the Spring Boot configurations. So once we alter the Spring Boot configurations, once we're done till here, then what we will do, we will, okay, once we're done till here, we will also understand the connection pooling, Hikari CP connection pooling. This is very important interview question. Very important interview question for experienced candidates. So Spring Boot 1.x using Spring Boot 1.x. I repeat one more time, please carefully observe. In case of Spring Boot 1.x, Tomcat connection pooling is used. In case of Spring Boot 2.x, Hikari CP connection pooling is using. Why? Why Hikari CP connection pooling is using? What is the benefit of that Hikari CP connection pooling? See, this Hikari CP connection pooling is world number one fastest connection pooling library. Hikari CP is world number one fastest connection pooling library that is using by the Spring Boot. That means what? How depth you have to learn about this Hikari CP connection pooling, isn't it? First, you need to understand what is connection pooling. Then you need to understand what was there in the Tomcat connection pooling. Then you need to come back to Hikari CP connection pooling, and then understand why and how the Hikari CP become the world #1 fastest connection pooling library. That we need to understand, and then how we can leverage it in our Spring Boot, that we need to understand. By default, Spring Boot is coming up with the 10 connection objects, so which is really sufficient for a heavy load or performance testing when we give the millions of records. Is this 10 connection objects are sufficient? Do we need to increase? Where we need to increase? How we need to increase? Those are all the points we will discuss in this connection pooling. Very important, very important. Maybe the terms I'm using, maybe the content I'm explaining is little high level for you at this moment. But what you need to understand is what you will get, what the market standard is, and how you can reach to that market standard by stretching on each and every concept. That is, you have to focus in these demos and gain the confidence. Then go for the registrations, right? You, before coming to me, you might have seen various demos, because you definitely are more experienced than me, right? You have seen various teaching styles, various contents, and you also given me an opportunity to me to showcase what I am also here in this Spring Boot, right? So that's the reason I'm just showcasing you by attending these sessions in Spring Boot microservices, how extent you will learn the Spring Boot and where you will be in the Spring Boot, and what is the market currently asking the questions in Spring Boot. For example, just let me showcase you a simple Spring Boot interview questions guide. This is a book prepared by some author, very important book, and then most of the interview questions are come from this book, in this book only. So if you can see the interview questions in this book, let me showcase you the interview question related to the Spring Boot. Okay, now see this interview question: how microservices are different than SOA? That means what? Service-oriented architecture. I have told you one thing, right? In 2015, so somewhere I have written in 2015, JAX-RS is used, and later JAX-RS with Spring is used. Why the Spring is used when JAX-RS is used, and then JAX-RS with Spring is used since 2015? Because in 2015 to 2017 and 2018-19 also, the service-oriented architectures become popular. So that we will discuss actually when we are starting the microservices. We will discuss, which will be an interview question for you. Not only this, there were a lot of interview questions. For example, see these: why microservices are better than monoliths? When you answer this question, when you know about a monolithic application, that is where we will implement the monolithic application here. So this application, what we implement is called as a monolithic application. Later, what we will do, see all the modules, order, products, categories, all these modules are bundled inside a single Tomcat, and all these are using a single database. Later, what we did, we have converted into microservices. Category service is one microservice which have its own database. Product is one microservice which have its own database. Order is one microservice which have its own database. Now we converted our monolithic application into microservices. Why? When you answer this question, when you really work on this, you will answer this question. That is where you will work here in this session. Here in this Spring Boot microservices session, you will develop this monolithic application with your own hands, and later you will convert this into a microservices architecture. That means you definitely can see a pitfalls in the monolithic architecture, right? Before going to the microservices. That's where you can justify more for this question. Why microservices are better than the monoliths? And see this, how you will define microservices architecture. So simple, we have taken a separate microservices for each and every module and then having a database added. Is this we said it is a microservice? No. Microservice have a principles and then characteristics. So if I can go and then see our notes, let me just to showcase you the notes. Spring Boot MS Cloud, Spring Microservices documents, and microservices material. If you can see in this material, clearly mentioned, I have clearly taken the points like, characteristics of the microservices, principles of microservices. So when the principles of the microservices are followed thoroughly by any application, then that we could say it as a microservice. Right, characteristics also there. 2 principles, 6 characteristics should be noted to you. It should be on your fingertips. 2 principles of microservices and 6 characteristics plus this honeycomb analogy. These concepts needs to be on your fingertips. Getting 22 lakhs CTC, getting 15 lakhs of CTC is not so easy, right? Correct. We should have to be at that level as well. So what you need to learn, what you need to focus more to reach to that level is what we'll discuss. Here, there is an important interview question called solid pattern, solid design pattern. Do you understand what is you are learning here? As part of this session, you are learning the various design patterns, various architectural styles, various design paradigms you are learning. Those are very important for a fresher to an experienced level candidate while attending the interview and while working also. Okay, however, now I would like to showcase you on the Spring Boot how the questions are on the Spring Boot. Are we aligned with this or not? Just in case, I would like to get your confidence. So if you can go here, there are certain questions on the Spring Boot. What is Spring Boot? This is a very, very, very minimal question everyone will ask. Very minimal question everyone will ask. And see this, how will you use the config server for your development stage and then production environment? In order to answer this question, first you need to know the concept of the profiles. So that is where we have now taken the concept of the profiles. What is profiles? And in this profiles, again, 2 types of profiles we have. One is the build time profile, second one is the runtime profile. So build time profiles are given by the Maven. Runtime profiles are given by the Spring Boot. So what is this profiles differences? So when you know that concept, then only you will answer this question. Like how you will use config server for development environment, stage environment, and production environment. And there is one more question series. What is the difference between application.yaml and then bootstrap.yaml? So if we can see by default, when we create a Spring Boot application, just in case I would like to showcase, when we create a Spring Boot application, we only will get application.properties file. But in real time, when we implement this Spring Boot application in real time, when we implement, see this what we will take. Just to see this what we'll take, application.yaml. Just let me open with the atom. Now see this YAML file we have taken. And in the YAML file, see how extent we have written, right? So YAML file, we have taken some properties. We have written some properties in the YAML file. By default, Spring Boot is giving the application.properties, but we have taken the application.yaml file. What is the advantage that we will get with this YAML files? Why everyone is referring the YAML file? Got it? So you will learn here in the profiles section the difference between, meaning the benefits if we use the YAML file. What are the benefits we will get using YAML file over the property file? You will get in this profiles section. Right now, once after you completed till here, right, then we will start our project. Our project we will start, that is nothing but the monolithic architecture. First we will start. So this architecture we will start. By this time you got a very, very clear understanding of the Spring Boot, right? Because when you attend the sessions according to this course content and the plan, by the completion of this till here, you definitely got a very good understanding of the Spring Boot and its internals, how it will work, its connection level, its profiles level, right? So you got a very good understanding of the Spring Boot till here. Then what we will do? We will start our project. So after completion of this one, we'll start our project. That is this project. In this project, I will explain the various architectural models. I'll explain the various architectural patterns. And finally, we will go with the entire architecture with the model 2. Entire architecture we will use, of course, and with the model 2 architecture we will use. Entire model 2 architecture, entire application it is, and then model 2 architecture we will use. What are these are we don't know. No problem. I'm here to explain you, right? So now what we will do, if you can understand, first we will start implementing the data access layer. Very important. See this data access layer. So that means this layer we will implement first. We'll implement the repository in all the modules. First we will do the repository implementation. That means repository implementation using the Spring Data JPA we will implement it. Did you remember yesterday's survey? So let me go and then showcase you the survey that we have done, and we have seen the survey yesterday. In yesterday's survey, that is the JRebel report and then the state of the Spring, whatever the survey you took, in this survey, they are saying, very important, they are saying Spring data is using 79%. In this, Spring data JPA is using 79% of the application teams, application development teams are using Spring data JPA. 79%. 79% is what? Almost all you can consider. Almost all the members of the Spring Boot application developers, almost all the developers, almost all the applications developing on the Spring Boot, not only Spring Boot, Spring basically, Spring, when an application is implementing using the Spring, in that Spring, the repository layer is implementing by this JPA. 79% of the people using the JPA here. Of course, the JPA will internally use the Hibernate as its vendor. That is the reason now you need to understand Spring Data JPA and Hibernate. Very in-depth of the Spring Data JPA we will cover here. Very in-depth of the Spring Data JPA, because lot of questions that we will get on the Spring Data JPA. Lot of questions, because it is like anything, data JPA will be used in this data access layer, right? That means here in the repository, categories module, product module, orders module. Here we will use the data JPA. So data JPA we will use, right? What questions, why we need to use data JPA? Okay, at this moment, I really don't want to discuss that, but without writing a single line of code, you can connect to the database and then work with the CRUD operations of the database. The advantage that you will get with the data JPA is, without writing a single line of code, you can connect to database and get the data and then showcase the data in this application. Similarly, you can create a category, create product, create orders. All these CRUD operations you can do without writing a single line of code using these repositories, data JPA repositories. So that is the reason those becomes very powerful. If you can see here, let us go and then search. Am I audible? Am I audible, right? Okay. So if you can see here, there might be the questions on data JPA as well. So the questions on security, questions on testing, and then definitely the questions will be on the data JPA as well. If not, then we will add the questions on the data JPA. Yes. How to, okay, not this one, just to go a little top. Oh, on data JPA, the questions are not given here, but we will discuss more on the data JPA. And then the interview perspective, data JPA is really asking a lot. Really asking a lot from the data JPA. Of course, the questions from data JPA were not covered here. Of course, we will add the questions from data JPA also. There were important interview questions are asking from the data JPA. Okay. However, now we will implement this module, meaning this repository layer using the Spring Data JPA. And while using the Spring Data JPA here, we will understand the JPA entities. So what is entity and how to write the entities, right? How to establish the relations like one-to-one relation, one-to-many relation. If we can see here what is happening, a product may belongs to one or more categories. A product may belongs to one or more category, or called what? One category. These are called actually relations, isn't it? Entity relations. Those entity relations we'll discuss. And if you can see order contains any number of products. One order contains any number of products. You can order a TV, you can order a fridge, you can order a cooler, you can order AC in one single order, a single POI. You can order single order, or of course each and every order for each and every product. So this one-to-many relations, one-to-one relations, finally we will implement those one-to-one relations, one-to-many relations and all we will implement here. And then finally we will create the database structure here. Our database will create here. For a sample, I will just showcase you how it will be. Just a sample, I'm just showcase you just a simple application, not simple application, it's a real-time application only, but I just would like to showcase you like how to write the entities and all. Sir, I don't know how to write these entities. Don't worry, I'm here now. So we will together will write models and see this. For example, the doctor.java. Just let me open this doctor.java. See this, how we will write it. So there is a one-to-one relation to the address. There is a one-to-one relation to the department. And if we can see the address, maybe address have one-to-many relation to, right? Many addresses, I mean, shipping address, home address, many addresses are there for a person, right? And then doctor.java, and then this is the department.java. Simple entity we have written, but in our case, we will written more entities actually. A lot of entities we will write in our case because we are going to implement a retail e-commerce application with the 4 modules. Of course, at least 4 entities will implement here: category entity, product entity, orders entity, and then users entity. 4 entities will implement here with the one-to-many and then one-to-one relations, which are very, very important. So once after we completed implementation of this repository layer, let us go back to our course content one more time. Once after we completed the repository layer, you will get a clear picture of what is this data JPA, how to write and all. So after completion of this one, immediately let us do a unit testing. So let us do a unit testing. This layer, what we have done, right? So once after we completed this layer, let us do a unit testing. And after completion of the unit testing using the JUnit, then let us go and then start our service layer implementation. So service layer implementation meaning this layer we will implement. So this layer we will implement. In this service layer, two things we will do. One thing is exception translation we will do. There is an important interview question: how to handle the global exceptions. For that, AOP knowledge is required. Of course, I'll cover that part that time, but how to handle the global exceptions is what the question will be asked by the interviewers. So in this service layer, we will address that, we will use that. And also how to implement the transactions, how you have implemented the transactions in your application. I'm sure the transactions part is always confusion and then always a toughest concept for everyone. But believe me, how easily we will understand the transactions here. I already have prepared a very good notes with the step-by-step approach where you can execute it and then self-learn this transactions part. If I'm not wrong, probably I might have the transactions related notes here as well. If not, then yeah, it seems to be it is not here, but I have to upload it here. So what I'm trying to telling you is the transactions, Spring transactions, we will understand very easily. Maybe let me use this GPA. Just I'm trying to open this document. I think here, no, this is not. Here we don't have the transaction document. Okay, it is a separate document. I prepared a step-by-step document on the transaction management. Just believe me, easily you will understand. But the point is, conveying that in an interview is little difficult. So for that, we need to understand this transaction status interface, transaction definition interface. These things we need to understand. Okay. These things we need to understand. And isolation levels, propagation behavior, timeout. So these entire concepts you need to be very clear. Why? Because the interviewer will ask you the question in microservices, how you handle the transactions. You handle the transactions in your Spring Boot. That is okay, good, because Spring Boot, we using Spring Boot, you implemented the monolithic application. Here you handle the micro transactions. That is good. But how you handle the transactions in your microservices architecture? This is a very famous asking question, and 100% the candidates don't answer this question if they don't have the proper knowledge on the event-driven architecture. That's where the Kafka and then RabbitMQ came into the picture. Maybe I'm speaking little toughest words to you at this moment, but I'm just setting you the expectation what you will learn in this course. So once the service layer is implemented, if you can see, so once the service layer is implemented, then finally we will use the Spring Web MVC here, and then Timeleaf we will use here, and then finally we will implement this view. So this view we will implement finally using the Timeleaf here in the Spring Web MVC. So that's how you will also learn the controller layer using the how to write the Spring Web MVC controllers. Here we will see validations and data bindings, internalization, and then the data binding, validations, internalization, and then we'll also understand parallelly when you are writing the controllers here, you are writing this controllers, right? Parallelly, you will also write the APIs here. What is the API? How to write an API, right? Those are all the things again we will discuss. So by this time, you will understand writing the APIs, writing the web controllers. You also have been completed with your project. That is on this Spring Boot Timeleaf. This project you have been completed. Now, once after completion of this project, of course, we will perform the integration testing using the Spring REST, and then the WebMVC controllers can be tested using the WebMVC. So integration testing can be performed. Then on top of this application, we will implement the logback, meaning logging and actuators, and then security. Okay, so this is the how you will learn the Spring Boot here on a project. Any questions for today? Of course, it's a long discussion, long theory I might have explained, but any questions for you here in the Spring Boot course content? And tomorrow I'll explain how we implemented the Spring Boot right application. Tomorrow I'll explain microservices, meaning how we will leverage this into microservices. I'll explain tomorrow. Any questions for me? Yes. Before starting this Spring Boot, before starting this Spring Boot, we will start the Spring Core only. For 3 weeks, we'll spend Spring Core and everything about the Spring Core, and then only we will start the Spring Boot. Spring Core is very important. Okay, Spring Core is very important. Okay, Spring Core content we'll discuss tomorrow, because today we already passed the time, right? So Spring Core content I'll explain tomorrow. And yeah, Hibernate and the JP will cover, obviously, na. So you have what you have learned here, meaning what you have heard about this content. See this Spring Data JP and Hibernate. Data JP will use Hibernate as a vendor. So we first will see Hibernate architecture, how Hibernate will work. A simple CRUD operations will do with Hibernate, and then come to the data JPA. Okay, right. And then what? Tell me Spring Core content. Tomorrow we'll discuss. Hibernate. Yes, Hibernate architecture, how Hibernate internally will work, and then how to do a CRUD operations using Hibernate. We'll discuss, and then we'll come back to the data JPA. Yes. What are the daily timings? The daily timings are from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. Daily timings are 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. So daily 1.5 hour session will take. In this 1.5 hour session, 1 hour 15 minutes is for the content discussion, 15 minutes is for the doubts clarification. Right. No, all the modules of the Spring I won't explain. All the modules of the Spring I won't explain. I will explain the Spring Core and then Spring Boot and Spring Web MVC, Spring Data JPA. Spring Web MVC, Spring Data JPA, Spring IOC, Spring Transactions, Spring Security. Right? These are all the modules I'll explain. ORM, I don't explain, meaning I won't touch it. DAO, I won't touch it. AOP, I will explain, because to understand the concept of the global exception handling, you need to understand the AOP. AOP, I will explain. Okay, sir, we will use JWT, OAuth, and user management, right? Exactly correct. If you can see our production architecture is depicting the same. So if you can see here in our production architecture, so this user management is there. In this user management, what we are using? JWT, OAuth 2, OpenID, along with the IDP called Keycloak. We will use here Keycloak, which is in a public network, and the OAuth 2 plus OpenID plus JWT we will use here. I think my screen is sharing, right? You are able to see my screen, right? Yes, the questions we are asking is because, I think you are not seeing my screen. Someone is asking, are you explaining the message queues like Kafka and caring mechanism? What is this? Kafka is here now. AMQP is here. So this I told we will use in an event-driven microservices use case, right? So yes, we will use Kafka and RabbitMQ. We will see the differences between them. Right. So correct. Writing the deep code will be covered. Yes. It's not so simple thing, hello world, bye world. No. So deeper code we will write. For example, if you can see this, let me showcase you the earlier microservices code, what we have written. See this earlier microservices code, what we have written. Not this one. Around 11 to 13 services we were written. Maybe I can showcase you. This is the service-oriented architecture, but yes, in depth of the code I will cover. Everything we'll discuss in depth actually. Okay, so any more questions? Fine. Yeah, in depth of it we'll cover. Any more questions? Okay. So the duration of the course is the 90 days, excluding these demos, 4 days demos. Don't consider 4 days demos. Okay, JUnit will cover 100%. JUnit will mark it or will be covered. Yeah, I think I answered. When will be regular batch started? Regular batch only. This is 4 demos are done, right? When you done your payments, registrations, and all will be completed. The demos will be till Saturday. 2 more demos are there. Once the 2 more demos were done, then you will go for your registrations and all. If you feel okay, then from 25th onwards we can start this Spring Core. However, though it is a demo, not demo, but 25th onwards I will start this Spring Core. So right, so that I'll do. Any prerequisite for the Spring Boot session? Yes, obviously the prerequisite is the Java 8 and Spring Core. If you know or don't know Spring Core, that's okay. However, I will cover Spring Core from the very scratch. So who already feel like you are masters in Spring Core, no problem. You can also attend for 3 weeks. 100% you will get a new look of the Spring Core. Right? There is one important interview question. question, will Spring Bean create on JVM? If you answer this question, then you will be master in Spring Core. What I mean to say is, though you know the Spring Core, please attend this 3 weeks Spring Core session. 100% you will get in depth of the Spring Core. Okay, that's what I would like to do. Yes. Payment only one time or any EMI mode. For this one, you can check with our backend teams. Definitely splitting option will be there, I believe. Okay, I want to talk to you on, can I, Sugandha Agarwal. Okay, I will give my email. Just mail me, Sugandha. I'm just typing my email. Of course, any questions if you have regarding anything, you can reach out to me on my email. So narsi.myteaching@outlook.com. So this is the email ID. You can reach out to me for any questions, anything if you have. Okay, right. Thank you so much, folks. That's all for today. And remember, today we completed, just have a look, we completed the Spring Boot course content coverage and how we will apply it on a project. Tomorrow, very, very important, because we will cover the Spring microservices. Microservices implementation using Spring. Microservices course content I will cover tomorrow, and how we implement it, just a glance I will explain. See, that security, Jdbc token is exchanging everywhere, right? So we will discuss about these things tomorrow. Microservices course content I will explain with the some design principles, and then some how it been leveraged, this application, how it will be leveraged to this level. I'll explain tomorrow. Just a glance I will give you tomorrow. Don't miss tomorrow's demo. Thank you so much, folks. See you tomorrow at the same time, that is 8:30 a.m. Thank you.